At the time, that old clunker video camera was the only camera I had. And I essentially suggested to Tom, more or less on a whim, why don't we do a TV version of our radio show, but this time try to put a little bit more structure into it. So what we did was we actually composed theme songs for it. The idea was we were going to have a different theme song for every episode and a different title sequence, so it would always be fresh, basically. And then we were going to do some, some skits and stuff like that. So the idea was to do 6 half-hour episodes for our first season, and then see where it goes from there. Maybe get it on public access or something. But here was the problem. I was moving. I was living in Ontario at the time, as was Tom, and I think he still is. And I was actually moving out to BC. This is in Canada, by the way, for our international viewers. BC being British Columbia. And we just didn't have time to do the whole thing. And so we did one version of it, which was basically just very much like a videotaped version of our audio show, just us sitting there talking for a couple different segments. And then I think we had 4 different camera angles in the entire show, and it was like an hour-long show. And then when we actually decided to do it with some structure to it, we got really crazily, stupidly ambitious and decided to do all 6 half-hour episodes in one night. We got as far as... yeah, I know. We got as far as doing the intro segments for each episode, which you can see on the edited versions, and the stream of consciousness segments, which were to be a recurring segment. The nice thing about stream of consciousness is it was really easy to do. It was basically just improv, and that was that. So, back in September, I decided to dig up the old footage, watch the whole thing, and see if there was any way at all I could somehow salvage something of a viewable show out of it. So I literally dug out everything, all the old theme songs that we composed. We were going to do 6, but we ended up only finishing 4. What the idea was I would compose 3 and Tom would compose 3 because he's also a musician. So what ended up happening was I did my 3, and then Tom and I collaborated on 1. So if you're wondering which ones were mine and which ones were Tom's, mine are episodes 1, 3, and 5, and Tom, the one I collaborated on with Tom, is episode 2. And actually the one I did with Tom is probably my favorite out of them, if only because the intro for episode 2 is my favorite. It's just a crazy intro. It's actually a crazy episode. So what I did was I went through all the old footage, the original 1-hour boring version and the structured version, and so tried to see if there was anything I could pull out of them that was even remotely topic-like or skit-like. So basically what you end up seeing in the final version is an amalgamation of the two. I just took literally 1 or 2 minute clips out of each, out of different segments, and effectively created segments out of them. Yeah, so it was an interesting project. I mean, I don't by any means consider the Tom and Sean Show to be high art. It certainly is not. But essentially what it was meant to be was a discussion-type show with some comedy sketches thrown in. So as it stands in its current incarnation, you really just have the discussion parts and not much else. So I realize it's not everybody's cup of tea, but yeah. And instead of having 6 half-hour episodes, we basically have 1 18-minute episode and a bunch of 10-minute episodes. So not quite enough material to make it fly, but oh well. I think it turned out okay for what it is. Okay, so how long have I been rambling here? Almost 14 minutes. Sorry about that. I think it's time to cut this episode short. In case you're wondering what the screen blanker says, it's my web address. That's Zaranyzerak.com. And on Zaranyzerak.com you can find pretty much all the videos. Sorry, sort of the racket on the tripod there. You can pretty much find all the videos that I have here on YouTube, in addition to some additional stuff. There's actually I think probably everything that you see on Zaranyzerak.com will appear on my YouTube page eventually, so whatever. But the difference is, the stuff on the Zaranyzerak page is all in stereo. I noticed that for some reason when you upload stuff to YouTube, it puts the sound in mono. I don't know why. So if you want the full-blown stereo versions of my shows, go to the Zaranyzerak website. Here's the web address. Should be right there. There. Okay, so I guess that about wraps it up for video blog number 2 on this Monday the 13th. Yeah, so I hope to have these coming out fairly often. And yeah, so by all means, say hello if you're watching. Leave me a comment, leave me a review, go check out the other stuff, or just ignore me entirely and never look at another video blog again. Okay, so until next time, hope you enjoyed the show, and I'll see you next time. It's kind of redundant, isn't it? Anyway, see you next time. Sayonara. Sorry, I just realized I need an image to fade on, so